Busy weekend leads us into a new week on the Just Baseball show. We got Pat Bailey, one of the best defensive catchers in Major League Baseball, on the back half of this with Aram and Peter. I'm Jack. Aram's with me to talk about Mookie Betts, a whole bunch of young shortstops, and then his favorite team's new favorite pitcher, AJ Puck, on the back end. Just Baseball show for Monday, March 11th, as always, presented by BetMGM. This was like I sent you a list of 5, 6 topics, and then you were like, oh, and we got to talk about this, and we got to talk about this, and we got to talk about this. Welcome to baseball season, where we have stuff to talk about.
And welcome to I think like we're in the red zone, of the off season. And I know it's not really the off season when spring training starts, but to me, everything that's not opening day or the World Series, the final game of the World Series, is technically the off season. I feel like this is the red zone where like any other moves that need to be made are either going to be made in the next week or it's going to be too late and you take the field goal. Like I think Blake Snell might end up taking the field goal, right? And we're going to see him, maybe a month or two into the season at this rate. So it's like a lot of things that are getting pushed in at the buzzer, a lot of different moves, and also a lot of decisions that have to be made. And they don't need to necessarily be made now, but I think right around this time of spring training, you start to see, how dialed in some of these teams are in terms of, can this rookie actually make the team? And their usage of that player, is he batting at the top of the order every single day like Jackson Holliday has? I think we start to see an idea of, okay, they're really serious about this guy potentially making the team. And we're seeing that with a few guys now.
100%. We're going to talk about Jackson Holliday. We are going to talk about a guy that was at or near the top or middle of the lineup pretty much every day for Cincinnati that is now not going to be there for at least the front half of the season. There is one note as to why I still fully consider this the offseason. Did you see the Blake Snell Instagram flurry that we got on Sunday? If we're getting Instagram stories, if we're getting Instagram like newsers, it's still the off season.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I only saw one picture with like the eyeballs emoji. Like, if we're tracking people's social media, the season ain't started yet.
No.
That's definitely a good indicator. Yeah, I guess if Snell's tweeting the little eyeball emojis, either he's just not getting enough attention right now at home, or something is close. But even if something was close, I don't know if I'd ever see myself being the tweeting eyeball emoji guy before something's about to happen. Maybe he's just that sick of everybody saying like, oh, when's Snell going to sign? When's Snell going to sign? But I don't know. Like, and I'm not trying to get on my high horse here or anything like that. I just don't think I'd ever be the eyeball emoji guy in relation to my own decision that I can make on my own timeline.
Yeah. Thing is, I don't know enough about Blake Snell. Like, there are obviously guys in the game that are eyeball emoji on the Instagram story 6 hours before they sign. And then there are guys that just throw it up there out of nowhere to screw with people. And
that's pretty funny. See, that part's funny.
Like Jock Peterson posting that Phillies thing was funny in hindsight. I don't know which one Blake Snell is.
Yeah, that's a great. He could be either way. I could see him one way or another. I guess we'll find out.
We'll find out.
If he doesn't sign anytime soon, I respect him more.
Yeah. Can I ask you a quick question? What does permanent for now mean?
Okay. I watched the whole presser, which is rare. I honestly don't. I'll watch like a little bit of it, but somebody posted the whole presser on Twitter. It was like, 2.5 minutes or whatever it was. And it was the reporter that loaded the question saying, is this a move that's permanent for now? Basically giving Dave just an easy get out, there, because you can give this 1 foot in, 1 foot out answer. So that was basically, you gave him a life raft to get out of there and not have to be committal. If you said, is this permanent, would have been much more interesting to see what Robert says. But because he said, is it permanent for now? He basically gave him a get out of jail free card, which is, can you basically give a wishy-washy answer? Because that was the one issue there. Is I get what he was saying. Like, is this what is going to be happening daily?
Yeah.
For now, but I would have loved a little bit more of a definitive answer. So asking, is this permanent, would have definitely given us a little bit more context to what the decision actually is. But I think it's pretty clear it's permanent until further notice. So I guess that is what they were getting at.
But doesn't permanent until further notice also mean temporary? The literal definition of permanent for now means temporary.
Is anything really permanent? if you really think about it.
I
It's
mean,
Bryce Harper.
A Sharpie's permanent. It doesn't sound
Yeah.
like he's Sharpied. And we're talking about Mookie Betts playing shortstop, by the way. This was the
Yes.
report. And Dave Roberts was asked about the switch for Mookie Betts going to shortstop full time. And he said permanent for now.
I think like if you look at it from any player's perspective, no player is permanent. Even Bryce Harper wants an extension because his deal isn't permanent enough.
Right.
I think it's interesting. Like I know what they're getting at. I think the point is until the Dodgers go out and get a shortstop outside of their organization,
Yeah.
Mookie Betts will be playing shortstop, and that's because Gavin Lux, clearly just is not ready to take that role on. And I feel for him because he looked like he was as ready as he has ever been last year before he tears his ACL. And now, there's some people that believe that I've seen on social media kind of allegedly saying that he has the yips. And honestly, like I haven't seen anything on it, but I've watched him make some throws, and he definitely doesn't look comfortable. And Dave Roberts said, we're putting him in an area at second base where it's easier to make the throw, essentially. So Roberts didn't do anything to help that, in terms of from I think Lux's perspective. So I think that's interesting. I think he's having some trouble throwing the ball right now. I don't know if there's any doubt about it. I watched him spike a double play that he turned from second base as well. Like he's definitely going through it, throwing the ball. And then, obviously it's not riding a bike. Like it takes some time to get fully in the swing of things hitting wise, but there was already questions around Lux anyways. We've talked about it in the past, how, I think a lot of the scouting reports on him were a little bit off. There wasn't as much emphasis on StatCast and I think data in general when he was doing the things that he was doing, because he was enjoying a nice PCL bump, putting up really good power numbers. And I think we saw some, major outlets give him double plus power grades, and he just doesn't have that. If you go back and look at the exit velocities, he's never posted even plus exit velocities. So I think it's a combination here of, scouting reports probably being a little bit too juiced on him in the past. And then you also have a situation where it's a guy that's been banged up, and I think a guy that's battling some internal struggles, I think, in terms of confidence and some things with his game. And it's pretty hard to, when you're on a team like that, is the show of Major League Baseball, right? I mean, they are the big thing, and you still haven't even proven yourself as a big leaguer yet, and you're trying to capture that shortstop job. I could see how the pressure could mount.
Yeah, I'm blanking on the year that he had the yips. It might have been 2020 where he played only 19 games, but he did battle the yips, and that was pretty well documented at some point very early in his major league career. I think it was 2020 after a 23 game sample in 2019. So you've got that. You put him back at that problem area. I will say, in terms of lineup construction, this was the perfect move, because you put Mookie Betts at shortstop. The one glaring deficiency was shortstop for the LA Dodgers, and you had Lux. I thought Tim Anderson was a perfect fit on the short end of that platoon. They didn't do it. So then who can play shortstop? Do you put Kike at shortstop? Like,
no.
He lost a step. Chris Taylor has lost a step. Kike and Chris Taylor filling in at second base with Mookie Betts as the everyday shortstop makes me feel so much better than Mookie at second and then figuring something out at shortstop.
My only thing is, though, with this whole situation is it does reek a little bit of some desperation, because and desperation's relative here.
Yeah, the best team in baseball has a desperate spot.
And it's a pretty important spot.
Yes.
My problem is, and again, this isn't saying that the Dodgers wouldn't be good regardless, but I think they could roll Miguel Rojas out there and they'd be fine. But I think it's interesting that Mookie Betts was always going to be moved to second base, going into this year to preserve his health, right? A little bit of ailments that they want to keep him fresh and keep him right. Now you move him to the most demanding position in the infield. And I know the outfield, I think it was a little bit of a back thing, if I'm not mistaken, that they wanted him to be kind of comfortable from. And I understand how the outfield can be, disruptive to that. But I just think it's crazy that the whole point was to preserve, one of the best players in Major League Baseball. And then now, okay, we don't have a shortstop. Mookie, you're up. And I get it. He is the best option. But as Peter wanted us to mention on the podcast, he hasn't played shortstop regularly. What, since high school?
Senior in high school. He mentioned that on base with Dan.
And that's not to say he's not capable. Of course he's capable. But is his body capable of holding up when doing that for, 140, 150 games this
Right.
year. So that my one thing is I hope that they give him a day off a week from shortstop at the very least, and don't run him into the ground. Because one, the sport's better when Mookie Betts is healthy, and I don't ever want to look back at Mookie Betts' career and say, "Oh man, if he was healthy." So that's my one thing is, I'm sure they've got a plan for it, but the whole point was to preserve Mookie, and I don't want some 11th hour, oh shit, we don't have a shortstop situation,
Yeah.
results in them kind of churning Mookie too much, which is why I think they're going to end up going out and getting a shortstop.
Yeah.
I think they just don't want to press and rush, and force themselves to make a trade where they don't have any leverage. But, if Mookie's playing shortstop for a couple months and then they get the opportunity to go trade for somebody, we know they got the farm. They can go get a shortstop there, and maybe that makes sense.
100%. Maybe they have somebody step up in Double A that we're not thinking about. Although those guys are kind of gone. Like Vivas is gone. Eddie Slayard is gone. All the shortstop prospects that we thought were coming down the pipe in 2021, 22, even a guy like Leonel Valera, like gone.
Yeah.
All those guys just disappeared, and now you have four catchers that you love and an outfielder that you love, and then a billion pitchers again. So it is fascinating. And I mean, at the end of the day, they still are the best team in baseball. And Mookie Betts, the day after this is announced, he has Dansby Swanson on his podcast. So like he's gonna be armed. I think Mookie Betts is gonna be A-okay.
Oh no, he's gonna be great. And that's the thing. I think he's gonna be great. Again, it's just more about, does the body hold up? But I'm excited. I mean, it's just fun to have one of the best players in the game at such a premium position,
Right.
which is really fun. The last thing I'll say is I think this makes sense as to why the Red Sox, or excuse me, the Red Sox. I'm thinking Mookie Betts, Red Sox. Sorry, Red Sox fans. I'm thinking about the trade that we saw between the Yankees and the Dodgers, right? That 40-man crunch trade where Vivas does go to New York.
And Sweeney goes to LA.
Trey Sweeney goes to LA. The difference is Vivas probably a better bat at this stage and a higher floor bat, but Sweeney can actually play on the left side of the infield. So maybe that was part of the reason too. Still a little ways away, but you never know if something really clicks for him in an organization that generally helps, hitters click.
Does Miguel Vargas make the roster? That's my last thing.
I'd have to look at like the whole roster situation. I would like to see that. It just seems like if not, move him. And maybe that's a guy that you can end up moving for more of a true shortstop. There's a lot of teams in baseball, I think, that could justify giving Vargas, an opening day spot and run him out there every day. I think he's going to hit. I've still always liked him, but where does he fit in is kind of the question.
No idea. A guy that will not be fitting into the Reds' plans and did play shortstop through the minor leagues last year. We saw him get his shot at third base. He looked good enough to make his debut and graduate from prospect ranks. Noelvi Marte was banned 80 games for the use of a performance enhancing substance. That's a tough blow for a team that was going to run out a ton of sophomores, and Noelvi Marte was going to be another one of those guys. He might have still had rookie eligibility. Regardless, they got a deal with that opening at third base. He was going to be the everyday third baseman, and Candelario was going to play first base. Now I assume Candelario moves over to third. You got CES playing first base full time. At the end of the day, this sucks for a guy who clearly needed to have a massive year to cement himself as a future star. We had our doubts. Last year, he quelled some of those doubts. This year was going to be massive. And now all the questions are going to start to creep right back in.
Well, it's interesting because a lot of my concerns were about, kind of some of the athleticism in the body. It had backed up on him, especially when I saw him in the Arizona Fall League. And then he was in better shape last year. He looked more physical. He looked like he was in a better position, and he played really well. I did have some concerns, and like you said, I think he quelled those, but now you kind of wonder what it looks like. How much was he benefiting from this? Is it the classic, oh, I didn't know what I was taking? I don't know, because that body did change pretty quickly. I guess if there's one team that can, be okay without their young third baseman who was penciled in, I mean, the Reds are one of them for sure, because it was already a cluttered infield in a good way. And that Candelario signing, as you mentioned, just looks so much better now. I already thought it was a great value. I thought it was weird that was a polarizing signing. You look at the price there; I thought it was a good deal.
Yeah.
But now, man, they got to be really happy that they pulled that off, because you got CES, as you mentioned, who slides over to first. Of course, the upside of Marte is extremely exciting, but odds are Candelario, given what he's done every year and what you can kind of expect from him, and not every year, I guess, because he's had some ups and downs, but I would have probably bet on a full 162 if you're picking one or the other. It's
Mhm.
safer to say Candelario has the better season.
Yes.
And now he's just going to get more regular reps at a different spot and CES slides over. I think the Reds, it doesn't really change their outlook too much. I think it's more about what it means for Noelvi Marte, a key piece, and
Yes.
their long-term outlook, and just the idea of having this young core growing together. This does kind of put a little bit of a fracture in it, but the other guys will keep going.
Now, do you think there's a world where they could kind of alter the assortment? As of right now, we're thinking it's going to be Candelario at third, Elliott short, McLean at second, CES at first, India DHing. Do you think there's a world where they move Ellie back to third base where he could profile better long term,
Mm-hmm.
McLean to shortstop where he can really handle his shit, India at second, Candelario at first, CES DHing? Do you think that assortment could make any sense? Or is it, hey, we're doing the Pirates thing with Oneil Cruz, who we'll actually talk about a little bit later on, where Ellie De La Cruz is the shortstop. That's where we sell our tickets. That's where we sell our jerseys. Ellie's going to play short, and we'll figure it out from there.
I think that the latter probably makes the most sense. I think we'll see them mix it up a little bit, though, because remember, Ellie's not as great, not as good from the right side. Fraley would probably grab that DH spot as well. So maybe when we see a left-handed pitcher, they mix and match a little bit differently here and there. I'd imagine that they want Ellie to just play all the time anyways, but
Right.
there could be lineups that they put together to negate some of the platoon situation, and that's where we could see that kind of infield alignment. But I'm imagining, you swap the DH spot, you get Fraley out of there, they can kind of mix and match a little bit more. But it does, they still have some versatility, which is nice. And I think the fact that Steer can play multiple positions, the fact that you have McLean that's pretty comfortable at third, short, or second, I think they're able to kind of mix and match and figure things out. But I am really fascinated to see how they handle this, because I do think there's a difference between what may be the best defense and what may be the most marketable and frequent defense that we see
Yes.
alignment wise. And that's not a knock on Ellie.
No.
That's just putting everybody at their best position.
Well, and that's also the reality of playing in a small market. Small market teams need to put the best brand on the field. And is that the best defensive alignment? Maybe not. Is that the best offensive product? Probably. They'll figure out a way to get the 9 best bats in the lineup on an everyday basis. That's the goal of the game. But they're also looking to sell out Great American Ballpark. And when Ellie Mania was at full throat last year, they were selling out Great American Ballpark. They're going to try and capture that magic again. And that will happen with Ellie De La Cruz at shortstop.
Who's very fine there. But I will say, you look at the numbers, you watch the video, McLean is just more consistent at the position at this stage.
Yeah. The best product, I think, regardless of talent, marketability, however you want to slice it, the best product at Camden Yards this year will be with Jackson Holliday in the opening day lineup as the second baseman. And it was an 0-2 pitch. Passan tweeted out the scenario. 0-2 pitch, 95-mile-an-hour fastball elevated from Yusei Kikuchi, so left on left, and Jackson Holliday with a pull side grand slam. It's your daily Jackson Holliday update, but I think we're all but confirmed that Jackson Holliday's in the opening day lineup for the Baltimore Orioles.
Yeah, he's forced their hand. It's just, it's one of those things where you can't justify any other decision at this point. And that's another infield. I'm really fascinated to see how they get everybody, some run and what kind of moves that they make to maybe clear up some space, because now that Holliday's almost surely going to start the year there, like a Ramon Arias, like, it's a good player, man, but like, where does he fit in when you've got Westberg and, you've even a Jorge Mateo, like, he's going to get some run still.
And
dude, still like him.
Can we acknowledge Kobe Mayo's existence and his production in spring training?
And if it weren't for Jackson Holliday, Kobe Mayo would be the talk of Baltimore right now. I mean, that guy is mashing too. And guess what? I'm glad you brought him up. He just did it in AAA last year. Like, he absolutely mashed there and got better and better as the year went on. So, and that's a guy that can play third, can play first. They may even try to run him out in the corner outfield just to find a spot to fit him in. By the way, Colton Cowser has made some adjustments. Looks like he is much more comfortable and looks solid. Kyle Stowers looks healthy. It is a really fascinating situation here. I'm very happy that they went out and got Corbin Burns, even though he got knocked around a little bit today. Not worried about that, though.
Starter. Hyde already announced it. Like, we're good.
Yeah, I think it's fine. But you know, they still have an embarrassment of riches, and
Yeah.
they still need to figure out, how to make room for some of these guys. So it's going to be interesting. And Jackson Holliday forcing their hand only makes it that much more difficult.
Yeah. No room in Arizona for Jordan Lawlar. He's headed back to the biggest little city in the world in Reno, Nevada. He's going to be an ace again. Jordan Lawlar, it was announced that he will start the year in AAA. We knew it. We knew that Perdomo was going to be the guy. It still just kind of stinks to see it. I've got no takeaway except, hey, it's final now. Time to, rip the cover off the ball for a month, because if Perdomo is OPSing 620 for the first month, like he did after that out of body experience for the first 2 months of the year, then here we go, man. It's your job.
100%. And I think Perdomo did earn, especially with his postseason performance, earn the opportunity to start the year at shortstop. And yes, he fell off a cliff a little bit through the remainder of the season, but still put together a good year. And then again, I think the finishing strong in the postseason and having some really big at bats for them and making some big plays, I think, earned him that opportunity. But also Jordan Lawlar looked a little bit overmatched. He's one of the best prospects in baseball. He's 21 years old. Like,
You're right.
he's going to be really good, but I don't think he's ready just yet. And he barely played in AAA, right? It was a quick bump to AAA, and then they ran him up, and understandably so. He's a great defender. They wanted somebody to kind of take over the Nick Ahmed role, and they figured he couldn't be worse. Turns out, I mean, it was pretty comparable because of how overmatched he was. But you figured you had a great defender, a guy that's faster at least. You have your Gerard Dyson runner at the very least in the postseason as well. But, Jordan Lawlar has the potential to be an all-star and a perennial one at that. He's probably going to settle somewhere in the middle. But I saw a guy that was really struggling with breaking balls, really struggling to stay on it and pick up spin, and was pressing. Like, a big part of what makes him so good is he's very selective. He's drawn plenty of walks. His chase rate's always been around, below 20%, at least over the last season and a half. So he got away from himself, and I think it's good to almost like the analogy I think of is like a shooter, just like a Duncan Robinson type 3-point shooter or whatever it is. Just seeing a couple balls go through the net, right? Like, just I think having a month here where your approach comes back to you, you're recognizing spin better, and then you bring him up with some momentum instead of kind of throwing him into the deep end again, fight or flight, opening day, all those butterflies. I think this will be a better way for him to kind of just fly into the big leagues with momentum.
I heard you mention Nick Ahmed. Do you have any thoughts on Nick Ahmed right now?
I think he's going to be the shortstop. No, he's going to be the shortstop in San Francisco. Look, the second that signing went down, I thought it was a tell that the Giants are, being realistic with what the reality is of Marco Luciano. And we've talked about him on the call up. I think it's a little bit, I think it's harsh because he's been hurt and things like that. But if you look at the body of work for Marco Luciano, he has not really put together a complete season.
Statistically, it's not good enough to warrant the prospect ranking, to warrant the to cue in pop culture the Lisan Al Gaid, like the Messiah idea, that he is the savior of the San Francisco Giants. He was really good at a really young age. Since then, point me to the year where he has proven that he is a top 20 prospect in the game.
I can't. And if you look at like the stretches, right, he dominated rookie ball at 17 years old in 2019. Then you get him up to, in 2021, low A, 19 years old, puts up a great year. They bring him up to high A, by the way, that year, gets dismantled. Like, not even competitive. 37% K rate in 36 games, 59 WRC plus. Okay, 2022, banged up most of the year. Ends up finishing pretty well, high A, 121 WRC plus in 57 games. Then this past year, we get him in double A, slightly above average numbers, whiffing at a 30% clip. They bring him up to triple. He really struggles. They bring him up to the big leagues. He really struggles. He's never really done it for a full season, both health-wise and just putting it together consistently offensively. And I do wonder if he never hit that home run off of Ryan Rollison that went viral during, really a COVID time, where they were just practicing on the backfields, that 118 mile per hour home run that was like heard around the prospect world times 10.
Yeah.
Does he get the same amount of hype? He gets a lot of hype because he was a top international free agent. Again, he was putting up really good numbers at the lower levels, and he is still just 22. But again, he's never really put it together. And he was given a lot more credit before he really did anything. Credit to him for improving the defense and becoming at least an average defender at the position.
Yeah.
It's not like he's proficient there either. I think the Giants are realizing that, if it's going to happen, he's going to have to be a late bloomer, and to count on him going into this year, probably not the move. Sounds like Nick Ahmed might make the team, and Casey Schmidt might be getting some more reps at shortstop too.
So maybe their two highest billed hitting prospects last year both made their major league debut in Marco Luciano and Luis Matos, and one of which earned it, one of which performed too well at the AAA level to be held down in Sacramento. One of them felt optically forced to the major league level.
Yeah.
And I bet you can guess which one felt optically forced. Matos did not light the world on fire at the major league level. You got to go back to the drawing board with Matos a little bit, but Luis Matos earned his way to his major league debut. Marco Luciano works incredibly hard. I'm not saying that he didn't earn his major league debut, but statistically speaking, he did not seem ready to be a major league shortstop. And in spring training now with 9 punch-outs in 14 plate appearances, do I have that right?
I think so. I mean, I saw a few of them myself when I was in Arizona, and I was sitting open side, like right behind home plate, just to the right.
So he's one for 14 with, sorry, he's 1 for 14 with 9 punch-outs in 16 plate appearances.
And that comes on the heels of like a very similar type of performance in the Winter League as well.
Yeah.
Where, I mean, he got blown up in the Winter League. So I'm rooting for him. He's still just 22. He's got time. But if we're talking about top prospect Marco Luciano, if we're talking about, a guy that can be a factor for this team this year, I'm betting on Luis Matos any day of the week to be a contributor for them. And by the way, finished the Winter League 0 for 16 with 9 Ks before I think he just stopped playing out there. So it's been a struggle for him. And I haven't seen a tangible adjustment swing wise or setup wise or anything. It's kind of becoming the definition of insanity here, at least Einstein's.
Yeah. One more shortstop that I want to mention here real quick is Oneil Cruz with the Pittsburgh Pirates. And I saw our friend of the program, Foolish Baseball, put out that he feels like the hype around Oneil Cruz has gone away entirely. And frankly, I agree, because like this guy, he breaks his leg, he shatters his leg in that, collision with Sebi Zavala at the plate in April of last year, and he misses the entirety of the year. And then you have Ellie Mania come, and he's the switch hitter, and he's the top prospect in baseball. It's almost like you got the better version of Oneil Cruz. Oneil Cruz is back. He did something that has been done very few times in the StatCast era, and I'll give you these numbers. He had an 116.6 mile an hour homer in the first inning against the Phillies on Sunday. And then in the second inning, had an 114 mile an hour homer. There have been 5 instances before Oneil Cruz in the StatCast era where a guy has hit 2 homers at 114 miles an hour or harder. That list, Matt Davidson, kind of weird, 2018, Giancarlo Stanton twice, Nelson Cruz, and Aaron Judge.
Ellie did it in AAA, I think, too.
Did he do it in AAA? Okay, yeah. So you got that going. The thing that jumps out about Oneil Cruz, he now has 21 plate appearances under his belt in spring training. He has hit 3 homers. He's struck out 3 times.
That's big.
We might be seeing this guy now fully healthy again enter his breakout year. And I saw a tweet about sprinkling on him to win MVP. Don't do that. Don't get ahead of yourself, because he's going to have his defensive struggles. He committed an error in that game on Sunday. But man, this guy can absolutely go 40-40 this year. He's that type of alien life form player.
Yeah, I mean, it's so weird that they're both like very similar in a lot of ways, Oneil and Ellie De La Cruz, and I think that's why, being in the same division, they're going to get a lot of comparisons. But O'Neill's had a lot more reps hitting wise, and I think if you look at who's probably a little bit more advanced from the hit tool perspective at this point, I think Oneil Cruz is a little bit better with the pitch recognition. He's starting to not do the swing over the breaking ball wave at it, because when you're 6'7" or Ellie's 6'5" with just ridiculous levers, you're going to generally get longer, and you're generally going to swing over those breaking balls because you got to start everything earlier. And you can almost close your eyes and picture it. How many times have you seen Oneil wave over the breaking balls and Ellie wave over the breaking balls? But you're seeing Oneil now stay back on those, or at least have some adjustability to be able to poke that out or just leave it. And I think Ellie will get there too. But remember, Oneil, though hurt last year, has just had more time, more reps, and has more time to reflect on his MLB struggles when he did struggle, and seemed to be building on it already last year. That's the other thing too, is like before he got hurt, we were like, oh, here we go. I think it's
He's
starting to
here.
come together
Yeah.
for him, and then boom, he gets hurt, which made it hurt that much more. I think they're both going to be phenomenal, but I think Oneil was already putting it together in terms of the
Yes.
polish side.
I love the point you make just there because 2 months in, I remember like 6, 8 weeks into his big league career, I checked on it and he was hitting under 100 against breaking balls. And then it's not a night and day switch. Like he's not hitting 350 against breaking balls now, but hitting like high 100s compared to sub 100 against breaking balls
Yeah, which is all he
is,
needs because he pillages fastballs.
yes. All he needs is like a 180 clip against breaking balls. That's it. We're just asking him not to be an 080 clip against breaking balls. And he may be at the stage in his career where he can do that effectively. Ellie is not there yet, understandably so. Oneil Cruz, I love the point you just made, has had a chance to sit on his major league struggles and correct that. And I think we will see a new and improved Oneil Cruz this year with the freak tools that we know he's got.
Baseball is more fun that way. So you get Ellie and O'Neill in divisional matchups, especially, the Pirates are going to be good soon. It's starting to come together. That talent's matriculating. You're going to have a young core in Pittsburgh, a young core in Cincinnati, and then they both have their alien life forms that they push forward in front of everybody and kind of lead the way. And I think it's just going to make for a really fun rivalry in the Central that I don't think anybody would have expected a few years ago.
No, and then you've got Skeens and Green that are kind of Spider-Man meme on the hill, and then you got Jared Jones, who's a freak, sitting 100 again.
You hope Lodolo's healthy. Like there's a lot of
Yeah,
fun young talent on both those teams. Again, I hope there's contention there too in a
for sure.
healthy way, and I hope we get a nice little rivalry brewing there in the Central.
100%. I want to turn to the Marlins real quick before we get to Pat Bailey. AJ Puck, dude, he's going to be a starting pitcher, and he looks freaking nails in spring training.
Uh, I never thought we'd see this one. I'll be honest. When I heard them talk about it in the offseason, I'm like, what? Why? What are we doing here? Often injured reliever.
Yeah.
We're going to move him to the rotation and see how it goes. But command has never been a major issue for Puck. It's been mostly health, and it's been mostly a third pitch. But now he's running a four-seamer out there, and I actually watched him on the backfields make all of the Marlins' best hitters look insanely dumb.
That's what he can do, man. Like, that's what he was doing out of the bullpen before the All-Star break last year.
Yep. And now he's added this splitter, and he's added this cutter. I forget who said it, but someone whiffed, and I'm standing back there, and I just hear one of the Marlins starters go, "He has a cutter now?" and you could just see everyone was just bewildered. And then you go through the game so far. I mean, the last outing against the Nationals, 3 1/3, 5 hits, no runs, 1 walk, 6 Ks. Before that, against the Yankees, and this was a lot of good Yankees hitters in this lineup that day. Yeah. 3 innings, 1 hit, no runs, 2 walks, 6 Ks. And then the other outing was 2 innings, scoreless, 1 walk, 3 Ks against the Braves. He's sitting 94, and he threw 64 pitches. I mean, it's been really just trying to manage him workload wise, just to be able to throw an inning every couple of days. So the fact that they can stretch him out now, he's holding velocity. They said he's recovering well. He feels good. With Edward Cabrera going down now, potentially sore shoulder, not only is Puck going to be in the rotation, I think he might be pretty darn good. My only concern, Jack, and I'm curious what you think, and it's hard to speculate on injury, but is this kind of like a churn and burn, like, Peter Bendix race type of thing where it's like, yeah, injury is probably inevitable, whether he's in the bullpen in the rotation, might as well get the most out of him now. That's my only concern.
I think you're building out your bench right now, and like you're building out your backup plans in the rotation. Weathers looks really good in the spring, and Max Meyer has looked healthy. So you have this assortment of Puck, Weathers, Meyer, and you've got Trevor Rogers coming off of injury as well. Like you hope that they can kind of fill out the rotation without Sandy and with Cabrera being as finicky as he is. And hell, man, Sixto Sanchez might have a spot in that bullpen. Like it is.
Can you believe
it? No, I can't. And in 96.1 from Sixto Sanchez in early March of 2024, couldn't freaking believe it. But I do think that Peter Bendix and Skip Schumacher might be building out their depth right now, and AJ Puck should be at the top of that rotational depth.
It's just wild to me, like, that this is even a possibility as well. And again, if he holds up, that's great news because he does fill up the zone Four-seamer, now working that sinker in. He's filled the zone up with that. Slider's nasty, having a splitter in the cutter as well. This guy can give you a lot of looks. So I think the goal is he can keep them afloat at least first few times through the rotation. Then you have Braxton Garrett coming back, who's going to get a late start from the shoulder. But if Puck's healthy and he's throwing, I mean, look, we saw Cole Reagan's off double TJ all of a sudden have this magic moment where he's throwing 100 miles an hour and healthy and recovering for now, which is great to see. And I hope it sustains. And, that's a first round talent. Puck was a first round type talent who's just been derailed by injuries. Maybe he has this second life here. But I am concerned about the workload. But hopefully he can stay going. And for the Marlins, I think they're probably already kicking themselves for not trading Edward Cabrera, considering that every single year he has a shoulder ailment or soreness or something around this time. It's every single time. So I mean, I don't know why they didn't try to cash in, but I get it with some of the guys banged up in the rotation.
For sure. Two more quick things before we get to our conversation with Patrick Bailey, the Giants catcher. Joey Votto is back in the big leagues. He's a Blue Jay. I will say my only thought on this, welcome back, Joey Votto. Really hope that this guy has the end to his Hall of Fame career, in my opinion, that he wants. If he does make an appearance in the regular season with the Blue Jays, that TOR at the bottom of his baseball reference page is going to look really weird. And it's not going to take away from his Hall of Fame candidacy, but it doesn't help. I find it interesting. I am glad that Canada's favorite son gets the chance to play for the Blue Jays in spring training. He could be a Buffalo Bison. He's going to give it another go, and round of applause for him.
Yeah, at least he gets to do it at home. I think usually people like to have the player in one spot his whole career. I think this is one of those exceptions where you can say, he pretty much was. He did the retirement year with his home area. Right. I don't know where. Canada's a big place, but I assume
I think he is an Ontario guy.
Yeah. But regardless, I mean, it's the one team in Canada, and I know he takes pride in that. So, I mean, regardless, I think it's a cool way to finish out his career, and hopefully he gets a little bit of run. I always like checking in on milestones to see if anybody's close to anything when they've got like kind of this last hurrah. He's not really at all close to any specific milestones. So, that's the one thing. Maybe he is close to surpassing somebody on a list of something, but there's not really, in terms of like the numbers, there's not really any number that he's super close to. But that said, it would be cool to see him make the team. I just struggle to believe that he's a better option than Dan Vogelbach at this point. And it is crazy to say that, but you look outside of that little fever dream stretch he had for a couple of weeks, like he was one of the worst hitters in baseball. And I hope he's good. And I would love to see him in like the what they imagine the Brandon Belt role to be. But again, wouldn't Dan Vogelbach just be better for that at this point? But who knows? Maybe Votto gets his body right. He's able to stay a little bit healthier this year, and he can just be that power lefty off the bench. That would be awesome. I would love to see his final year. He's just Matt Stairs, comes in, it's clutch homers, and just as electric for this Blue Jays team. I would love that more than anything. Yeah. But again, Vogelbach being there, Votto's probably going to be playing in AAA. And he's probably going to put a lot of butts in seats, which will be really cool. He's not a guy that has too much pride to do that. That whole team that he's going to be a part of is probably going to get a lot of nice things from him and a lot of great meals because he's a great guy. Yeah. And then if they need anybody, we'll be right up there. But he doesn't strike me as the kind of guy that has too much pride to just have some fun in Buffalo and mentor guys and then come up when he gets a shot.
Man, he spent a long time in Louisville last year, and he is set. He felt kind of rejuvenated by the group in Louisville because at the beginning of the year, it was Ellie De La Cruz, and it was Matt McLean, and it was CES. Like, he was with that group that matriculated. I'm not saying Damiano Palmaggiani is Ellie De La Cruz, but, you got some good hitters that are going to be there.
There's fun guys over there.
It looks like Relvis and Barger are going to be there, so it could be fun to kind of foster the next generation of Blue Jays pitchers. And if Tiedemann's there, that would be, awesome to have one of the best hitters of this generation kind of watch a start and break down Ricky Tiedemann with Ricky Tiedemann, which would be great.
Sorry, go ahead.
He's just been so hurt. Like, I hope he's healthy.
That's it too. Because I still feel like when he's healthy, he can be that. He can be, I know he never was a 3 true outcome guy, never whiffed that much, but he could be a 3 true outcome, replacement slugger. I think he could still run into baseballs. But I was going to say the reports were out of Cincinnati that it was a conversation that Votto had with Will Benson on like the team plane that really helped Benson get his mind in the right spot and really helped him, have the performance that he had and break through after a sluggish start to his big league career with the Reds. So, Votto has that kind of ability and that kind of impact. And again, I think the Blue Jays see him as just a mentor, almost like a built-in coach. And, if he can give them something on the offensive side, if they need it, that's great. If Vogelbach continues to struggle, then yeah, you've got another option there. But, I think at the very least, they feel like they've got a coach here in Votto.
Speaking of the Reds, guess who David Bell announced as the opening day starter?
Wouldn't it? Oh, Frankie Montas.
Frankie Montas.
Why? Dude, they're buzzing about him out there, huh?
I know. I know.
They're buzzing.
Charlie Goldsmith had it.
I was going to say Hunter Green, and I'm like, nah, you wouldn't have asked me that question.
Nope.
They're buzzing about Montas. He must look great.
I guess. Wow. Shout out Charlie Goldsmith for having
Yankees
that. Yep.
fans punching air.
Oh, God. They're so
God. I would love to see Montas just shove this.
It would be so much fun.
I would love that.
Same way I wanted Gallo to rake as soon as he left. Like Montas.
I will say, I don't think they didn't really get a chance to boo Montas because he was never really on the mound. Right. I'm sure when they get the opportunity, they will.
Yeah.
So if that is the case, then I would love to see him shove.
Duke Wake this past weekend. Duke Wake Forest. We saw Jonathan Santucci and Josh Hartle go head to head on Friday. Then we saw Chase Burns punch out 14 on Saturday. Did we see the first two pitchers off the board this weekend in that series? Or, I mean, shit, dude, Hagen Smith is
Hagen Smith's putting up some dumb numbers right
now,
dude. Some crazy, crazy numbers. But I have some of the just the numbers from that Chase Burns start. We definitely saw the top arm, which is Chase Burns.
Yes.
Ran it up to 101. It broke triple digits if you don't round up 3 times, but if you round up from 99.5, he hit that six times. Just ridiculous stuff from Burns. Like it was fun to watch the Santucci start and also see, Hartle, who's going to be an arm that's probably late first, maybe early second. But it also was a great reminder of how fucking good Chase Burns is, because Santucci, some view as potentially the number 2 arm in this class. I think right now it's Hagen Smith, but Santucci struggled a little bit, right? Hartle got knocked around a little bit. Then Burns, aside from a solo shot, just knocked every hitter around with it. It just overpowered them. Yeah. And it was a different game. So to me, this really solidified that Burns is the top pitcher in this draft. And I don't think it's particularly close.
I like that he showed his nut job side again, because I'm sure everybody remembers the throat slash that he had coming off the mound at Tennessee. Like, we knew he was a nutcase in the best way, and he had like a nutcase moment in that game. He can rise to the occasion, and I'm very excited to see this guy pitch in big moments for the next 15 years.
How many swinging strikes do you think he had?
So the average high on a given night in Major League Baseball is like 15, 16. He threw 95 pitches. Is that right?
99.
He threw 99 pitches. Is he over 20?
26.
God. Okay.
And it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 on fastballs. The rest on sliders.
Yeah. Well, his slider has been like 90 to 92.
That's just disgusting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that psycho scream, like nut job walk off the mound. I was like, this guy is built for it.
He's got
it. And I will say, though, this was a preview of what I think is going to be a really fun ACC battle, probably ACC tournament final.
Mm-hmm.
Duke can play. There's a lot of fun players in college baseball right now, but man, Chase Burns. It's funny, most of the best pitchers are usually Friday. I think, Wake didn't want to mess with it. Hartle's been their guy. Like, It's been this way, kind of the 3 in a row. If it's a Saturday, check if Wake Forest is playing. You won't regret watching this guy pitch. Even if you're not a huge college baseball fan, if you like this sport at all, you will get a lot of enjoyment out of watching Chase Burns do his thing.